I'm having to work out if I really want to record a video on that. Um, so Leeds United versus Stoke has just finished, and I was going to do my standard sort of tactical analysis-y stuff, running through what happened. But yeah, it's quite a hard match to talk about, to be honest, because I like to do relentless optimism, and I don't feel super optimistic at the moment. So from the very, very start of the match, there were some early questions about the lineup. Playing Gruev in his first match was fair enough, probably coming. Kamara might have been a little bit tired or something like that. He had just come off an international break, and Gruev didn't seem like the worst. The big changes that people were questioning were on the wings, with Anthony and Nonto coming on for James and Somerville. James and Somerville had done really well before this match and were on a nice little run of consistent form, and then they were dropped. I don't know whether it was to preserve them for Huddersfield, but clearly Farke trusted Anthony and Nonto enough. And diving into the match itself, there was something that I immediately noticed that I completely didn't expect to happen, and that was a super energetic Stoke press. They were happy to push us high up the pitch, squeeze us, but also keep enough players back to deal with the Rutter-Piroux threat by just sort of outnumbering them. There was a nice little gap in the centre of midfield that they allowed us to play with, but we couldn't progress through it very well. And that led to a fair bit of looseness on the ball, and I think that was a fundamental part of our issues in the first half. We didn't look like we were being consistent or holding the ball often enough, and I think that was a big problem. We didn't grab control of the game. They seemed a lot better than us through the early stages of the match, with Ilya Gruev seeming off the pace. That's fair enough. He's not played in midfield in a very, very long time. He doesn't even play there for his country at the moment. And Archie Gray had some mistakes sneaking in at points. The odd loose pass, the odd poor touch that give the ball away. To be expected when he's had so many minutes. It might be time to rotate him out for the Huddersfield match, but we will see in Daniel Farke's press conference. And this meant that early on in the match, Ilham Meslier was tested a hell of a lot. They had a good few shots. There was one save that Meslier made with the inside of his right leg that bounced onto his left leg and pinged about a bit and just about didn't go in. And that was a pretty negative sign, in my opinion. That was a sign that we were not properly controlling the match and we were letting them come at us a little bit too much. However, there was still a nice little bit of creativity going on. Rutter was still looking to create opportunities, and he did all match long. I think he was the best player on the pitch, to be completely honest with you. That is including their players, including Kiana Hoover, who caused a lot of problems for our attackers in the second half, but we will get into that later on. Rutter's vision and touch and ability to use space was something that created basically all of our opportunities, which I will get into a little bit later. But the first opportunity that he really created in the first half was for Joel Piroux, who had a shot one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and it was fairly nicely saved, but I feel like it could have been put into any of the corners and he wouldn't have gotten to it. The keeper was committing fairly early. It felt like the keeper knew that the ball was coming directly at him, and he got away with it, to be honest. In my notes, I've also noted that there was a little bit of refereeing drama. The Stoke fans felt like the referee was all going their way. I just felt like he had a fairly crap night in general, rather than just being against Stoke. In the second half, maybe it felt like the Stoke fans got on his back, but I don't know if that was my internal biases. There were a lot of bad decisions going both ways. The simplest way of putting it, Paul Tierney is normally a Premier League referee, but somehow still doesn't perform in the Championship against inside a half-full Britannica stadium. Britannia? I can't be asked learning. It's Stoke City. Then we got to half-time, 0-0, and I thought there might be some changes needed. I thought structurally we were having the occasional issue that we might have had to deal with, and I thought we might see a substitution or two. The main issue I saw was there wasn't much urgency in our moving forward. We were taking a little bit too much time on the ball. And that continued a little bit into the second half. We were missing urgency, and although there was still continued bad refereeing into the second half where he would just miss fouls completely, including, I think for this one, it was the double foul on Rutter, who got his foot stood on, and then Piroux was lining up a shot but got shoved in the back, and he didn't give either of them. Like, I'm not blaming the referee for this performance in the slightest. We were not good enough. It's just of note. But we were missing quite a bit of urgency throughout the second half, and we didn't have a cutting edge. We were not good enough at shooting. We'd get the ball into fairly promising situations, but then the through ball to a forward wouldn't come in, or we'd pass it to Jayden Anthony, who would dribble a little bit too much out on the left wing and end up playing it backwards to Sam Byram because we ran out of ideas a lot of the time. So it was time for changes, and we got 3 of them. Crescencio Somerville came on, which was fully expected because he has been in the form of his life as of late. Patrick Bamford came on, which took me a little bit by surprise because I thought Peru didn't do anything too wrong. But then again, it's worth a shot. Bamford is a good striker on his day. Again, we will have to get to that one. And Dan James, which I was saying in a call with someone I was watching the game with, Dan James was the substitution that I would have made a little bit earlier on because he brings that urgency. He's a very direct player who's very, very good at running with the ball. Coming off was Joel Piroe, which, as I've mentioned, was a little bit of a surprise. I didn't think he'd come straight off because I didn't think he did anything too offensive. Nonto was looking sort of average throughout the match. He had a couple of very nice touches, but he didn't create too much. And Jayden Anthony, who just looked a little bit slow, not quite at it. And it was a straight swap across the line, and there was an immediate impact with Somerville having a shot. It was, I think, a nice through ball by Jorginho Rutter, put Somerville through, had a dig, just wide. Very, very good sign. And that continued as Patrick Bamford won himself a penalty. Got in a little bit of space going into the box, and the defender looked like he sort of fell over, but fell over into Patrick Bamford's feet. Definitely a penalty. Stoke had nothing to complain about there. That's always a foul. And it was, again, Rutter's nice little bit of footwork and a brilliant through ball that set Pat Bamford free. I think he had a nice little touch over his own head or something before he played the through ball. Very nice from Rutter. Nothing wrong with him all match. He's my man of the match. And then we get to the bit where things started falling apart with the penalty that was missed. And this is where it's fair enough to have a go at the fact that Patrick Bamford is not in the position to take a penalty. It would have been his first touch. It was a bad decision for him to take the penalty. Something that's annoyed me is the number of people sending personal insults on Twitter, but it's fair enough to say that he shouldn't be taking that penalty. Considering the players we had on the pitch at the time, Somerville, who was in very hot form, Rutter, who has been very good with the ball at his feet, there were better options, is the best way I can put that. And the fact that he skied that over the bar meant that the home crowd got behind their side, and there was a colossal swing in momentum that eventually led to a Pascal Struijk own goal. Own goal is very harsh because there was nothing he could do about it. It was a nice in-swinging corner towards the front post. One of their players got their head on it, hit the bar, and it came directly off the bar to Pascal Struijk's face about 2 feet away and into the goal. I wouldn't blame Struijk for that in the slightest. He's where he needs to be. He just got very unlucky with the bounce. Struijk, I felt like he didn't do much wrong tonight in the slightest. They didn't have that many chances, and they scored a goal from a fairly lucky bounce off the bar. But then we went back to the attacking 3-2-5 with Daniel Farke thinking, sod it, we need to throw everything at it. Jan Poveda came on, Luke Ayling came on. Ayling is a sort of weird right midfielder with Archie Gray staying fairly deep. Gruev and Byram came off. Byram coming off was a little bit of a surprise to me because he seemed like he was doing quite well. Whether that was a fitness thing, I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. But the switch to the attacking 3-2-5 was a little bit too late. It looked like by that point Stoke had grabbed hold of the game, had learned how to hold possession, and was sort of causing us more problems by getting creative and forcing us back into our own half, stopping us from using those 5 attackers. At the same time, they sort of took advantage of the fact that we were a goal down and desperate, sitting in a little bit when they didn't have the ball because they knew that we were forced into taking those sort of banged in crosses, and our forwards aren't there to win headers. Rutter, tall guy, wins the odd header. Isn't quite your big lump up top. Same for Bamford, same for Somerville, same for Poveda, especially Poveda. And it didn't work out. And it ended with Stoke City winning 1-0 against Leeds United. What this means going forwards, I've got absolutely no idea. I feel like I think we let Stoke be in the driving seat for too long. We let them play their game, and that forced us into making some desperate decisions. Penalty taker being Bamford was a big mistake. We need to review that going forwards, and that was the moment that the match swung on and led to the loss. That's the difference between us being in 3rd place tonight and us being wherever we are. I'm going to take a quick look. I don't want to look. And we're still 3rd, so it could be worse. 9 points off the promotion spots. Not ideal, but it is what it is. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's always good to see what your thoughts are after a match like that, especially one that was so sort of interesting to dissect. Like the video if you enjoyed it, not if you enjoyed the match, because then the dislike ratio would be horrific, and subscribe. I will see you later.